originally 3 sides, and Queen Victoria had, of course, 9 children, so they had to build a 4th side for all the nurseries and things. Edward Blord was the architect, but the master builder was Thomas Cubitt.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Very good evening to you. You're with GB News. Up next, headliners, but first a look at the top stories just after 11 o'clock. And we start in Paris. The King and Queen have sent their warmest congratulations to athletes from Team GB and the Commonwealth for their outstanding successes at the Paris Games. The Prince and Princess of Wales have also called Great Britain's athletes an inspiration tonight as the 2024 Games come to an end. In a video featuring Snoop Dogg and David Beckham, William and Kate praised everyone involved.
Greetings, loved ones.
From all of us watching at home, congratulations to Team GB.
Well done on all you've achieved. You've been an inspiration to us all.
Well, Great Britain have finished the Games with 65 medals. That's one more than they secured in Tokyo 2020. Bryony Page and Alex Yee, who both won gold, carried the British flag into the Stade de France this evening. Paris is now handing over to Los Angeles, who will host the Games in 2028. Here, hundreds of people have attended the funeral of Alice de Silva Aguirre, one of the 3 girls killed in an attack in Southport 2 weeks ago. 2 white horses wearing pink and white feathers carried her coffin in a carriage into the service in St Patrick's Church. And during that service, a tribute to the 9-year-old from her parents was read out by her uncle. The 9-year-old died alongside B.B. King and Elsie Dot Stankham during a mass stabbing at a dance class 2 weeks ago. A man in his 20s has been shot in Leeds in what detectives are describing as an extremely serious incident, with armed officers responding to the scene earlier this afternoon. The 27-year-old's now in hospital for emergency treatment, though we understand he is in a stable condition. Officers are now investigating what happened and are asking drivers to avoid the area of Steinbeck Avenue while forensic teams remain at the site of that shooting. And the UK could see its hottest day of the year on Monday, with temperatures reaching up to 35 degrees Celsius, with central England expected to feel the most intense conditions. Cooler weather is expected, though, to arrive later in the week, bringing temperatures back down to more comfortable levels. And further north, the Met Office has issued a yellow weather warning for thunderstorms tomorrow. In Northern Ireland, in Scotland and Northern England, there could be flash flooding and possible travel disruptions. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. Your next update from the newsroom tomorrow at 9:30. Now, though, it's time for headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. This is your first look at Monday's top stories. I'm Cressida Wetton. And on my beautifully balanced comedian panel tonight, got the calming influence of Kerry Marks.
Beautifully balanced.
And is that a banger in his pocket, or is he just pleased to see us? It's the People's Gammon, Paul Cox.
Hello.
Are you beautifully balanced as well, or just me?
No,
yes, but I think I don't know. Looking at us both, we're even, aren't we? I think.
Yeah, reasonably. How balanced are you,
Trying
Cressida?
to create some difference between. I'm not balanced. I'm totally.
I did love your start though. Hello. Like you just got your neighbour again.
That's very balanced.
Hello, it's Krista here.
Covered everyone.
Oh God, I'm so relaxed. It's exhausting. Right, OK, that's enough of that. Let's have a look at the front pages. The Times goes with knockdown prices for green belt to build on. The Daily Mail has no more rioting in the name of our little girl. The Express leads with exposed. Junior doctors plot to cripple NHS again. The Guardian has far-right use Christian symbols and offence to faith, says Welby. And The Telegraph has Cooper, UK has lost respect for the police. The Mirror has Mummy and Daddy will always be with you. And those are our front pages. OK, starting with Monday's Guardian, Paul.
I actually could start with Monday's Telegraph, Krista, but not sure what's happening there. Cooper, UK has lost respect for the police. So riots show that people believe crime has no consequences, says Home Secretary, which of course is Yvette Cooper, who pledges to restore faith, public's faith in the law, as she warns would-be rioters the streets will be flooded with officers this week. So, I mean, quite clearly, there's been a lot of problems in Labour's first month, and maybe not all their fault. I do feel this is sort of very easy, contrived politics from Yvette Cooper, largely because she picks one issue, she states the bleeding obvious, she avoids all other issues associated to that issue, and she just ignores any of the problems associated. So, yes, we do have a problem with rioting right now. It's actually gone. I mean, you'd think, listening particularly to some of the mainstream media outlets, that there was far-right riots every single afternoon and evening of the week. That's just not happening. That stopped about Tuesday. Thank goodness, by the way. And there are all sorts of reasons why that stopped. However, Yvette Cooper's come out now and says she's going to restore faith in the police. Now, it's very easy when you're in opposition. The trouble is when you're in power, you've actually got to do something to prove it. So we look forward to seeing what happens. Well,
what do you think they're going to do, Kerry? Because at the moment they're just being very, very heavy-handed with a specific group, aren't they?
They're going to tell us nice stories about the police, really sweet ones that make us love them, you know.
Well, we had a lot
what
of that,
what they're
didn't
ramping
we?
up to, they're ramping up for, this is fighting talk and justification for increased police powers, which jury's out right now as far as I'm concerned. It might be necessary, but I'm always hesitant with the defund the police or over-policing. I think it's always a bad idea to... It feels reactive too fast to everything that's just happened. She does say lots of people across Britain have strong views on crime, immigration, the NHS, but they don't throw bricks, which I think would be weird if people threw bricks over the NHS. I'm so angry about the NHS. Here's a brick, that'll help. I think also we've had 10 months of marches with people shouting for intifada and jihad and so on, and supporting terrorist organisations, and nothing's been done about it. So if people have lost respect for the police, it might be because they haven't been doing a lot for the last few months.
Outrageous, Kerry.
Thank you. I am, or they are?
No, you are.
World is?
I don't know if any of that's actually happened, mate.
I respect the police. I want you to know that.
All the news is what happened last week, OK?
Yeah. Everything's
before that.
History started last week.
Yes.
Because historically, I know a bit about history, and I don't think this country's ever really respected the police, has it? I mean, that would be quite new to us if you said suddenly.
If you like crime, as you and I do,
I love it. Wouldn't have a job without it.
They get in the way.
Well, it's a good time to be committing crime, isn't it? With the jails all being full. Obviously, Labour have gone ahead and freed up some space, so that's going to make Yvette Cooper's job a bit easier, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah, they have they've cut a lot of sentences by 40%, allowing a lot of people out that have done lots of heinous things. And what they're going to put in is someone who says something nasty on Facebook. And I'm fully behind them. You know, nasty words, they get said to me all the time. Porky, chubster, you know who you are.
Throw out the key.
Throw out the key.
Well, I meant throw away the key, but I said throw out.
There are some legitimately far-right, troublesome people who are and should be in prison. OK,
we are at pains to say this, and it's absolutely right, quite clearly. You see the people that have been convicted already. There's some sentences that are likely to be up to 10 years, apparently. Let's see who they go to before we start casting any of our judgment upon that. But what we've seen so far is genuinely sort of bad people that have done bad things, committing a crime on a Saturday and being sentenced and jailed by the Wednesday, which is phenomenal because we've been told for years that
extraordinarily efficient, isn't it?
Yeah,
would they like to come and run GB News?
Yeah. Well,
yes, they would love to, actually, yes.
No, I shouldn't have
don't throw that one out.
To the ground is where they would love to run GB News. We're a thorn in their side. We're the only outlet really talking about this.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. OK, let's move on to the front of the Times, Paul.
So knock down prices for green belt to build on. So councils will have compulsory purchase power. So this is Labour trying to meet their 1.5 million homes by 2030. OK, and the way they're going to do it is a number of ways. They're going to build on brownfield. They're going to build on those sort of grey in-betweeny fields, and they're going to build on the green fields as well, the lovely ones we like to look at, which is a bit of a shame because what they're going to cover those green fields in is plastic-clad council housing. And I don't know about you, Kerry, but I do love a romantic walk along the hill and looking down at those plastic-clad, terrible houses.
You know me well.
You and I have done it ourselves.
Let's get some candles and go.
It's our dating default, isn't it, for sure. But Labour aren't really fans of the countryside. you know, it's not been that long ago since they said it was racist. And quite clearly, the countryside is very racist.
They said the countryside was racist?
Oh, it's absolutely
really?
I've not heard about the countryside being racist.
No, I haven't noticed that. I'm so out of touch, really, yeah.
And no, so we don't. From my perspective, and this is not GB News' perspective, Paul Cox's perspective, is we don't have a housing crisis. We have a population crisis. So trying to build 1.5 million homes in the next 5 years doesn't really solve a problem. I think they should just be honest and just trying to find ways to boost the economy.
Oh, I think it's quite a good challenge, actually. It's quite fun to see if they can do it. I think they should get all the people who are throwing bricks right now to lay a few. You know, might really help. You know, maybe make things, put things together.
They could be auditioning for a new job while they're lobbing them about.
I'll give it a go. It feels like we're chipping away at everything, doesn't it, including Greenbelt now, and so which was obviously it was going to happen at some point. She says, or they say they're concerned that landowners might cash in on the demand. Let me answer that. They will. In order to build this number of houses, what we're going to see is the Greenbelts are going to go first, and then we're going to see bus stops turned into houses, and then houses on houses, schools turned into houses, hospital operation rooms turned into houses, and soon everything will be a house.
And if you remove all the belts, the trousers will fall down, Krista.
Well, you say this, but some of us would like just one leg of a small pair of trousers. I don't know if that's what you...
We are stretching the analogy.
What I was getting at is, as somebody that's trying to buy their first property, it's a nightmare when everything's expensive, there's nothing around. I'd love to see more housing built.
See, I'm like sort of a Generation X boomer. I actually bought my first house when I was 20 years old. So right now... You know, I'm at the end of that. I'm sitting pretty. I really don't.
I haven't got a house actually. Get rid of the green belt. Hell with it.
It's people like you and Chris that I really don't care for. I want just.
You don't, do you?
No, I don't. And I just want green land to look at. While you guys do whatever you do in your.
Well, I'm building a house on your garden
places.
I'll teach you. And I'll remind you of this conversation while I'm building it.
OK, we're going to have a quick look at the Daily Star. I don't know if we've got the graphic for it, but what is on the front cover of the Daily Star?
We're going to get hot on Monday and I think Tuesday as well, having not read the whole story. But it's going to be 35 degrees centigrade, which is very hot, by the way. And as someone who loathes heat,
GB News studio hot.
I think even hotter than that. But you know how much I don't like that. And it's going to be coming from France in a dinghy. And we're going to give it a hotel, and it's
Labour have already built it.
It might work.
This week, weather is my Leo curse impressions.
Were you being Leo?
Yeah, I was trying.
You don't have to when he's not here. You know, there's no obligation. It's not going to be good riot weather. That's why it's good for Britain.
No, exactly. I'm actually going to Scotland tomorrow because I don't like good welcomes or good weather.
How harsh. Are you going up to Scotland?
Yeah, I am going up to Scotland tomorrow. I'm doing some friends, I'm doing some family stuff. I'm generally in Scotland. I'm not telling the good people out there where I'm going because they don't like me.
So you're going to get out of the 35-degree heat and you're going to go to Edinburgh into one of the venues that's about 50 degrees.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It's going to be ridiculous.
What an escape that's going to be.
I know.
Lovely. You can have a brief jaunt on the Royal Mile and enjoy the fresh air. OK, that's the end of part one. Join us in part two for a former MP fessing up about Labour's weak spots, rioters facing more consequences for their actions, and news of a minority group that you probably haven't heard about. See you in two.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, to enrich us on the best cheeses and wine to buy, I'm delighted to be joined by the CEO of Inflorescence, Jacinta Madison Wilson. Jacinta, thank you so much for joining us in the studio.
Thank you so much for having me.
Also, thank you so much for bringing what is
what a Sunday you're having.
of wonderful... What do we have before us?
So, we've got 3 gorgeous wines to try today. We've got an English sparkling, we've got a beautiful rosé and a dessert wine, and, of course, cheese.
Wonderful.
And paired them all beautifully.
Now, English sparkling wine has had a bit of a renaissance.
Oh, it's incredible, isn't it?
To use a French word to describe English sparkling wine. It's having a bit of a moment in the sun.
Absolutely. I just think it's so exciting that this is right on our doorstep, essentially, an hour out of London, and we're around beautiful vineyards.
The chalk sort of sediment is exactly the same as the Champagne region.
Absolutely. Yeah, our soils are really similar. We use the same grape varieties a lot of the time. We make it in exactly the same way as Champagne. Our climate is like Champagne was 40 to 50 years ago. So we're really kind of drinking it blind. You almost wouldn't know that you're not drinking champagne. But it's right here on our doorstep. We can stay local now.
Absolutely marvellous. Well, we've got... So what is the best order to start?
OK, well, we're going to start with sparkling, because all things in life should start with sparkling. I got married a month ago, and this was actually the... Thank you so much. This was the wine I chose to have as our first wine that we served the guests. This is from a winery called Bluebell, which is in Sussex, and I've chosen to pair this with a lovely... kind of the English version of Camembert, which is called Tunworth. Okay. It's a very classic pairing of champagne and brie. So we're kind of going to do the English version of that now.
Classic.
Absolutely. Are you ready to get stuck in?
I am so...
OK.
Hang on. Is it cheese first or wine first?
I'd have a little sip of the wine first.
Sip of the wine, bite
have
of the
a little
cheese.
bite of the cheese and then some more wine. Get it all mixed up in there.
It's like a cheese sandwich.
Exactly. Yes.
OK, here
Cheers.
we go. Cheers.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threats on.
As time passes,
She could have saved Storm.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different. Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark Dolan, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. This is your first look at Monday's newspapers. I'm Cressida Wetton, still joined by Paul Cox and Kerry Marks. So beginning this section with Monday's Telegraph, and after 30 years as a Labour MP, Dame Margaret Hodge has hinted that open borders might possibly not be a totally great idea. Sounds a bit far right to me, Paul.
It does sound extremely far right, I think I heard on Sky News recently. We're too frightened to talk about immigration. Not us three, of course. This is the Labour veteran, Dame Margaret Hodge, who stood down at the election after 30 years, as you said recently, just a moment ago. She has urged the party to work towards a new positive discourse about immigration, focusing on the richness that foreign nationals bring to the UK. So, I mean, this is incredible, really. I mean, I don't know whether to be glad that somebody from that side of politics is trying to have a discussion about it, or feel entirely patronised that she's doing it now, because this has been the biggest story for eons, and it's the only time I can think of in my news-watching adult life where the biggest story has never had a section where they explain why it's happening. It's just happening, and they say it's these bad people, and there are some bad people involved, but stood behind those bad people are thousands and thousands and thousands of concerned people who are worried about immigration for very valid reasons, not because of the colour of the skin, or even because they're not culturally assimilating, but because our infrastructure just doesn't sustain it any longer, and it's affecting people that need it. And those people,
might be a mixture of those things.
It will be a mixture, and those people could still just be people that have only been here 20 years, let alone for 200 years. So this is a huge problem, and I'm not sure what the solution is. At the moment, what we're seeing from Keir Starmer is very reactionary stuff. His language is reactionary. What he's doing is reactionary. So he's managing to put people in prison. It looks like it's stopping the riots. For me, that's very short-sighted. It's kind of short-termism from a short-sighted leader, because what he's doing is solving just one minute part of the problem, saying, we've done it now, it's all over, look how good we are. You've solved nothing. If anything, within certain communities, martyrs are being created, and elsewhere, nobody feels listened to.
Well, to be fair to Dame Margaret Hodge, I get the impression that now she's left Labour, she's kind of able to say what she thinks. What do you think, Kerry?
Well, she brought it up in 2006, and she was accused of helping the BNP gain seats. So she's obviously been raising this subject for a while. It's just no one's particularly listening on it. And people complain about the right-wing press covering it, but the trouble is the left-wing press aren't, she's right, they're not talking about it, and so they're leaving all that ground to what they consider to be their enemies. So that seems a bit of a bad planning, right? So they should be talking about it more. We've seen a lot of strange things going on at the moment. We've already talked about it. To be clear, absolutely clear, once again, all the violence and stuff going on is awful, and there's no excuse ever to be getting aggressive in the country. It's bad. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, we all agree. Not good.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's
and on the other hand, we're hearing just lots of cliche talk about how the benefits of immigration, which there's unquestionably benefits of immigration, but some of it is also that immigrants go on those benefits, which...
He's just joking. Brilliant
Very
stuff.
nice.
Sorry about that.
Oh, my goodness, great stuff.
That just came out of nowhere. But, look, there's good and bad sides to these things. And, you know, there's poor areas of Britain where the unemployment level has remained at the same now since, like, Blair's government. And the way we patched over it was with immigration to show growth. But it didn't actually make any difference to the level of unemployed in those areas. So, of course, a lot of people are disgruntled. What we're seeing at the moment is everything going on, including the hug a migrant thing. I don't know if you saw that the other day. I think it wasn't supposed to be literal.
Yes,
I don't think you can just go up to a... You can't just go up to a migrant...
Consent is required. I've tried it. They don't like it.
Also, you've got to then ask where you're from, which is already a bad start. They hate all that. Well, maybe hug a thug.
Yeah, why not?
Have we tried that?
At your own
Hug a
risk.
thug.
I think it's a good idea, but I wouldn't advise it. OK, news now that rioters could face up to 10 years in prison. This is in the Times, Kerry.
This is Stephen Parkinson, the Director of Public Prosecutions, and he said the number of charging decisions is expected to soar with a new phase of cases being brought by police. And then he chuckled merrily. Ha ha ha! He said, I'll show them. We warned of the consequences, and we will deliver those consequences. And then he says, it's not about exacting revenge, it's about delivering justice. I think Batman wrote his speeches. You know. That sounds like something Batman would say rather than...
It's just a bit suspect, isn't it, when somebody says it's definitely not this?
Yes, that already becomes...
Why did you bring that up?
The lady doth protest.
Somewhat.
I think what we need to do and what we got rid of was we got rid of football hooliganism, which gave people an outlet. You know, and now they're trying to find other places.
They're connecting the two again, aren't they?
Yeah, bring back football hooliganism. Am I the only one on this?
No,
Okay, you know, I'm into men's spaces and men's rights, and it is the case, isn't it, that men teach boys how to be... I don't know, Kerry, no.
We do. We get together with boys and we teach them. You're absolutely right.
Look us up. Both Kerry and I do our own hooliganism.
If any boys would like to write in, we'll arrange a training session.
But I get the impression that these people are still not being heard. I mean, I appreciate, as we've said many times, the people that really are the far-right thugs who are just turning up for a bit of a fight because that's entertainment. I've got no patience with them whatsoever. They're making everything worse. But overall, there's no tone in this article where anybody's talking about legitimate concerns. And once again, Elon Musk is being called deeply unhelpful. People don't want to hear from Elon on free speech.
There's a huge vacuum in opposition at the moment. The Conservative Party are nowhere to be seen. Sir Keir Starmer is wandering around like Mao here, and he's just doing whatever he wants, whenever he wants. The Conservative Party are over here worrying about who the next leader's going to be. Is it going to be Tugendhat? Is it going to be Pretty? Meanwhile, the streets are alight. They're doing absolutely nothing to challenge Starmer on any of his policies whatsoever. And everything Starmer is doing right now is against anything he would have told us 6 to 8 weeks ago, because he would have told you that we need to have less sentencing. We need to have fewer people going to prison. We need to let people out of prison sooner. We need to have more community-based punishments. None of this is happening as a result of this. They're not saying, oh, we need to give these people some sort of social or community-based punishments. They're giving them 10 years. Now, look, we have to... Let's just, for all three of us tonight, so we can get on with the rest of the show... Right-wing thuggery exists within this movement, and it's undermined the whole problem. It's bad, and they should go to prison.
Speak for yourself.
No,
absolutely.
So we just have to accept that. But in order for us to have the conversation, the dialogue, and actually talk about what the problem is, we just need to park that for a moment, because it distracts. They have distracted. It is distracted. The problem that started this whole thing still exists and not gone away.
OK. The Telegraph next, and hunters are asking to be protected, Paul.
Yes, they are indeed. Hunting community to take legal action to become protected minority group. So the community, this is fox hunting, by the way, the community that has been advised by a leading barrister that they have a case to seek protected status, including that they could be considered an ethnic group as a result of their shared history or that they hold protected beliefs. So this is essentially I mean, if you can't beat them, join them, right? Then finally, identity politics has found fox hunting. Very nearly said something terrible then, didn't I? Has found fox hunting.
It's Sunday, you can get away with it.
Exactly, you can, yeah.
No
it's only Justin Welby watching. And, you know, so literally a barrister has been very clever about this and saying you can identify as like in the same way as a travelling community would, or an ethnic minority group would, or LGBT community.
Or the ethical vegans, which apparently
I'm all behind.
has had success with this idea.
Yes. But look, the upper classes have suffered thousands of years of oppression, and it's about time they got, you know, better understood. Normally protected groups are the ones who were hunted, rather than the ones who were doing the hunting.
I assume that the foxes have got legal representation as well. I don't know.
Yes, but they're not ethnic foxes, you know. Look, this might work for them, and I'm they're comparing themselves to the LGBT community, and I'm pretty much sure that at some point we'll see the red on the pride flag representing hunters. Although I think red's already taken for now. Orange for foxes, yeah. My prediction is the British public aren't going to be that bothered by this. They're not going to feel really sorry for the hunters. I just feel it's going to be hard to move the public and say, look, the hunters have had a really hard time. I do think there is a case for they're talking about the discrimination by employers and so on, and providing services in pubs and hotels. I don't know what that is, but if they're being discriminated against because of their blood sport hobby, then that's wrong.
It's the gay wedding cake problem, isn't it? But on a less palatable example. So it says last year Wiltshire Police banned officers with links to hunting from joining its rural... Police wouldn't hire people because this woman had posted some pictures of herself hunting on Facebook, so she couldn't have the job.
You think they'd like that?
Well, you would really, wouldn't you? I mean, I think that's going too far, isn't it? Discriminating. That makes me side with the hunters. Even though I don't hunt, I would be the last person in the world to want to do anything cruel to animals. But I recognise that it's got to be one rule for all.
Sure. I kind of like these stories. You know, I haven't hunted for ages. I gave it up. My council estate just stopped running a sort of community-funded fox hunt, so we couldn't do it any longer. However, you know, it's not the fox hunting I'm in favour of here. It's the fact that they take these sort of ridiculous, sort of very leftist views of the world that creates these minority groups that must be protected in some way, and they've basically manipulated that almost cleverly and gone, yeah, we're going to make ourselves a protected group as well. And there's something within that I thoroughly enjoy.
Fair enough. OK, Monday's iNews now, and bad news for pensioners, Kerry.
Almost 4 million pensioners could be living in poverty and struggling to afford even the most basic foods or Fords. They might want Fords, we don't know. Yes. But I'm going to assume I was right the second time with foods. In the next 15 years, a charity has warned, and charity's going to know best on this sort of thing. This is news that's about me. You know, this is where I'm going to be in 15 years when I'm building my house in Paul's garden. So yeah, you know, the old people have had it good for a long time, and what's happening for the future old is they're not going to be the same old, same old. They're going to be the poor old and it's everything is going up. I think we're heading for Soylent Green 15 years from now. This is where, yeah, you know, the sci-fi movie where people end up. Well, I'm giving it away now, but they discover that the food they're eating is other people because we can no longer feed everyone. We decide to eat them.
Diet,
which, you know, I think this. I think that everything is costing more. Everything is breaking, and I think this country needs a side hustle of some kind. You know, maybe selling drugs or something. Why not?
So, you know, some jam on the side.
Yeah.
Thoughts on this, Paul?
Well, only a few. We are terrible as a society at looking after our old people. Really, we really are. And they've become sort of pawns in the political game. And that, you know, testament to that is what Labour... The first major policy Labour did was essentially to means test the winter fuel allowance and take it away from millions of people. And they'll be the first people to come out and say, oh, we need to look after our old people. You're like, come on, mate, you're having a laugh, aren't you? So I think we need to do better by our old people. What I don't recommend is moving them in. I moved my parents in. It's absolutely a disaster. They are feral. So don't go that far. But
don't move Paul's parents in.
No, don't move my parents. You can move my parents into your house.
I hope Mr and Mrs Cox aren't watching. you. OK, really quickly, closing this section with the Telegraph. The most athletic man in Paris hasn't won a medal, Paul. He's been arrested.
I know, it's outrageous, isn't it? A British man has been arrested after he climbed the Eiffel Tower hours before it started the closing ceremony of the Paris Olympic Games. So the shirtless man, identified as a professional climber in the French media, scaled the 1,000-foot monument without any equipment. And in one video shared on social media, the blonde bearded man has not been named, looks at the camera and says, "Bloody warm, innit?" Which is classic British bants, isn't it? Now, we saw the opening ceremony. It was like a naked Smurf with his man purse out. So we don't know that this half-naked British guy climbing up the Eiffel Tower isn't part of the closing ceremony. You know, it could just be part of it. They might have actually started it early. It was all sort of arty. We didn't really appreciate it, etc.
Excellent point. Yeah, how would you know? Kerry, any thoughts on this?
Yes, he wanted to see the Olympic closing ceremony, so he was trying to get as high as possible. I think we're being horrible about this. It's he's shirtless. This man's, he doesn't even have a shirt.
Struggling.
So, you know, the least we can do is let him climb up the Eiffel Tower. Do you know Alan Robert, in 1996, he holds the world record for being the fastest illegal climber of the Eiffel Tower, which he did in 45 minutes. Isn't that impressive?
Well, I do now. Well done, him. OK, that's it for part 2. Come back in part 3 when we'll be discussing what isn't appropriate at a protest, what isn't appropriate for Christians, and what's compulsory for women who want to serve on the front line. Don't go away.
Hello, welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we go through Monday, it's going to be turning increasingly hot and humid for some of us, with the risk of thunderstorms in the northwest, but it will be turning fresher later. Looking at the bigger picture, we've got an area of higher pressure across the UK. Further towards the west, a deep area of low pressure, and that's helping drive southeasterly winds. So through the rest of this evening, many places staying largely dry, but as we go through the night, we'll see the risk of thunderstorms developing firstly in the west, but then across Northern Ireland and parts of Scotland later, and we have got some weather warnings in force, so expect frequent lightning, torrential downpours and some gusty winds. And temperatures overnight, well, it's going to be feeling quite uncomfortable, some places not dipping below 20 degrees. Now, as we start Monday morning, we have this band of heavy, thundery, showery rain across western parts of Scotland, moving its way north and eastward, so there could be some difficult driving conditions in this, with frequent lightning as well and some torrential downpours. Northern Ireland turning drier as the day progresses, and across much of England, largely dry but cloudy further toward the west, and already feeling quite warm by 8 a.m. So as the day progresses, that band of rain will continue to push its way north and east, with some thunderstorms even ahead of that as well. So they can't be ruled out completely across the south, but many places should largely miss these. Many places seeing some hot sunshine, especially across the southeast. It's going to be feeling very hot and humid, with highs of up to 34 degrees, but fresher further towards the west. As we go through Tuesday, still a warm start in the south and east, but bright elsewhere. Then we have another band of rain moving in from the west, so turning increasingly cloudy, with outbreaks of rain for many across western areas, sunshine and showers behind that, and that sets the scene through Wednesday and Thursday, with unsettled weather on the way, but turning fresher as well. Bye-bye.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Monday's newspapers. Opening this section with the Daily Mail, and the government is considering banning face masks. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Kerry, what's going on?
What's going on is wear a mask, don't wear a mask, as you just said. That's exactly what's happening. Ministers are concerned that far-right rioters purposely covered their faces, not accidentally. They're not worried about the accidental ones. No. The ones who deliberately did this during the chaos last week to avoid identification and arrest, rather than the ones who did it just to look good. And so we're going to ban masks so that we can catch people more easily, which of course makes sense. I think getting them wear name badges would be good.
Yeah, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
Or, you know, hats with, Trev and Doris, you know, just they'd have to stand together. Yeah, you're right. It's been up and down, hasn't it? It's the culture has changed from all the banks and nightclubs don't wear a mask. We need to be able to see you on the cameras. And then, of course, COVID came in and we were all told to wear masks. That was really weird when you turned up a bank at one point. They were like, you haven't got a mask on to come into the bank. What's happening around here? And then, of course, it went again. But then we've had 10 months of people wearing masks on some of the protests. So it's all been very up and down. Policing Minister Dame Diana Johnson said in The Sun, do not tell me that individuals who come armed with flares, fireworks, petrol bombs to a location advertised online with fire emojis are just there to protest. Do not tell me that someone is in a crowd for peaceful reasons when they are wearing a balaclava of trying to avoid being identified. And then she says, these are dangerous thugs. And she doesn't do a rule of three. There should be another one, shouldn't there? There should be
she hasn't done the
that's
course.
the rule. That's the rule. You do another, don't tell me.
Again, we could teach her.
Yeah, but you can't tell her.
No, don't tell me.
Yeah, that was the third one. Don't tell me I didn't do a rule of three.
She's shutting down all speech.
Yes, totally. We know what she's up to. Anyway, what do you think?
My concern about this is that it might be like this. There obviously are still some legitimate face coverings, right? Because they've said if it's a religious reason,
if you're ugly,
or something. I don't think ugliness is listed, but maybe
isn't listed. It should
maybe
be.
that comes under miscellaneous. So, Paul, this is open to abuse, isn't it? This rule.
Yes, of course it is. And what's fascinating, and Kerry did touch on it, and you know, it's very true. This was something the Tories tried to introduce some time after October the 7th. I don't know if anyone out there remembers October the 7th and what may have happened and the protests that were triggered as part of that. But there were a lot of anti-Israel protests where people would cover their faces and say things like, you know, death to Jews. Yeah. Little chance, friendly little chance like that. Well, they don't seem to have minded then. You know, you didn't go to prison or anything like that then. It didn't really matter. But now, of course, although there are some far-right thuggery, chucking bricks around, etc., etc. However, look, they should be... I mean, they're saying they're going to make this legal... Like they're going to make it legal that illegal to wear a mask at a riot. Don't go to a riot. I mean, you know, you're already doing something illegal if you're going to a riot. And riot, by the way, in order for someone to be charged with starting a riot, they have to have 12 people who are consenting to one view and organising it to happen.
Are you joking?
No, it has to be 12 people
Paul
minimum.
Potts, the Gammons, looked up the definition of riot.
You do.
Is that right?
That's absolutely right.
You don't
legally
have to have
speaking.
a dozen people to riot.
You do need, in order to be convicted of rioting, in order to get the 10-year sentence to be convicted of rioting, you will have to prove that they were part of a 12-person strong team.
Well, that is fascinating. I'm going to look that up later. We're in The Guardian now, and Archbishop of Canterbury and influencer Justin Welby has given his take on the social unrest in Britain, Paul.
Absolutely. Archbishop of Canterbury warns Christians against membership of far-right groups. He hasn't spoken to them for a while. He mainly just speaks to his people on Twitter. The Archbishop of Canterbury has warned Christians they should not be part of any far-right groups, doesn't identify how they would be, criticising the use of Christian imagery in this summer's riots as an offence to our faith. Do you know a headline I've never seen? And that is that the Archbishop of Canterbury concentrates on managing the church. There's never been any of that. He's not really doing any of that. He's not too fussed about the church or anything that goes on there. He's just an opinionated sort of man who, like you say, is a bit of an influencer. I would say, he needs to be re-familiarised with what the Christians did in the Crusades. He seems to be slightly worried at the moment that some of this imagery is negative on the church. Now, you know, I consider myself...
I see. You don't mean because he wants a refresher course on that
No, because he seems to forget that the faith that he supports has a very violent past.
Right. Well, I'm sure he wouldn't be up for that either.
You're right. They've had 2,000 years to give the message, really.
Justin, have a look, mate. It's in the books and everything.
I don't want to get too involved, not being a Christian or anything, but I'm going to. First of all, I think Jesus would be for the riots. I think he would let people throw stones if they were without sin.
Yes.
Right? But...
You'd have to check, wouldn't you?
Yeah, totally. But just sometimes the Archbishop does feel like he has to say something. This is my job.
They're definitely not without sin. Nobody should be throwing stones.
Yes.
Well said.
Seriously.
Well said.
Yeah, look, it's horrifying what's going on, and of course this is all following the stabbing at the in Southport was following children at a Taylor Swift music thing, and it was and she's also had 3 concerts cancelled. You see that in Vienna?
Yeah, because there was a planned terrorist attack from.
I know, but it kind of surprised me with all that, with 3 of her concerts being cancelled, that people have instantly gone with the idea that or blame migrants. And I would have thought it more likely would have been ex-boyfriends who have featured in some of her songs, finally trying to stop her concerts, but. Obviously not. Look, I don't know. The Archbishop might have special information that's not available to the police or the government that he gets from
he's got
above,
a phone line to God.
Yeah, totally. So
or the Pope.
Yeah.
I don't know who's highest.
But I'm glad he's spoken out, because there's people who listen to him, and maybe they were going to riot right up until the point where the Archbishop said, "Don't do it."
And he's also telling... It's incredible, isn't it?
Well, I still think it's very obnoxious to use the cross if you're not living the values, you know, the virtues. But then people do that with religion a lot, don't they? OK. Staying with The Guardian. And snitches get no trouble from the Swedish government, Kerry.
This is a new immigration plan, or a law to stop the immigration, I get rather, in Sweden. It's been called the switch law. The switch law. It's not. The snitch law. Yeah. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. My brain is on its way back. So this is a proposal, and this is the Sweden Democrats who proposed it, and I think they're the second biggest party now. I am reading as I talk, but so basically the idea is that people in various jobs, dentists, teachers, professionals and so on, and apparently librarians that they've got down here as well, are to report anyone who's illegally, any illegal people, and hand them in. I mean, I think to one extent you're supposed to report crimes anyway, right? If you see a crime, that is kind of the way things work. But this is obviously this is being heavily criticised, because people are going to the doctor who need help, and they're going to have to keep their, or they won't go because they'll keep their identity down, or be afraid of being handed in by a doctor who probably should not be doing that kind of thing. The idea was also opposed by more than 90% of librarians, it says, according to the trade union DIK, the trade union Dick, by the way, which I wouldn't take that seriously personally. Librarians are supposed to say shush, not be telling on people, is the way I feel about it. When did librarians become protectors of morality? What's going on here?
Well, this isn't even about morality, really, is it? Because it's The Guardian have taken what is a sort of legal mandate in most countries in the world that, we would prefer it that documented people were here rather than undocumented people, therefore they're illegal, and framed it that it's some sort of far-right bigotry. And then they've rustled up all these civil servants who, of course, are going to be on the side of migrants. It is a difficult one, but particularly in the example you used with the doctors.
The library. Why the library?
The library. They're all just check the people taking out the Quran. But in the doctors in particular, it is very difficult. I don't know. Maybe they don't have to snitch in the doctors. Someone comes in.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because it's clearly going to have a terrible impact on the people that are already there. But as a deterrent, it's very strong. I don't know. Paul, what's this story in the Daily Mail now about men and women having different physical attributes? That can't be right.
Female recruits must pump iron and bulk up if they want to serve on the front-line, Army says. So a major new study by Army fitness chiefs found that women hoping to serve in infantry units, known as close combat roles, experience higher rate of injury than men, and most are susceptible to bone fractures and hip injuries. Well, my flabber is gasted, Krista. It's almost as if there is a biological difference between men and women. Who would have thought? But fair play. I mean, first thing I would say is it's fair play to women who want to fight on the front line. Fair play to anyone who wants to, but especially women in what will be a very alpha male type environment. So fair play to them. But, pretending that men and women are the same biologically for so many years now has created issues for these people who do want to do this, because they've never been given proper probably the training that they really need in order to bulk up to become more biologically male, because we have something called testosterone. I mean, Kerry has loads of it. He has most of the national
overflowing.
Testosterone.
Well, that's all fair, isn't it? And they are clearly making moves now and saying the women need to do whatever it is, a few more press-ups or something like that, Kerry.
No, they're saying that the women need to identify as men, and then they'll be strong.
That's
the modern method. It's simple. Oh, OK, look.
It says they've got a pump iron, but they don't say who iron is.
Men have an unfair advantage from 100,000 years of evolution. So what they're saying is women need to be held back a little bit and evolute. You know, spend 100,000 years and improve yourselves. This is Professor Julie Greaves, the Army top physiologist, and she said additional training was required for women, which is, she's going to keep them after the class. And then she said women are not going to get stronger by accident, which, if only they could. Wouldn't that be great if you could get stronger by accident?
OK, just the final section to go. Join us after the break to hear the secret to men's happiness, why our heritage makes good business sense and why traffic lights might be getting a makeover. See you after the break.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Fatima's UK campaign, Children and Young People Matter. Because I actually run a campaign, and my ministry today is about looking after children in the care system and improving their life outcomes. You know, for me, I had a difficult start to my childhood, and I will never forget it. I mean, I always say I may have left the care system, but the care system hasn't left me. And I instantly understand the importance of giving our young children and young people the opportunity to also, you know, have good life outcomes. So Fatima's UK campaign is all about that. It's a summit next year. Eamon, I hope you're going to come.
No, I know we've talked about this before, and certainly, I mean, I believe in what you're doing. I think it's marvellous what you're doing, and that's why, you know, when you think about children, and children are so close to you, and you look at that horror that happened in Southport yesterday, I mean, things like that
exactly.
will really hit home hard.
Well, children are the innocent ones, aren't they, Eamon? And this is what we look at. When you think they're the future, we've got to start to put them back at the top. And it's a travesty when we see things like that, you know, that happen. You know, children are the ones that are impacted. And, you know, it's, for me, you know, it's really important to be able to do the best we can and looking after their future. And so hopefully, you know, I'm going to the Pyrenees in September, Eamon. That's my next challenge, the Bay of Biscay, from France to Spain and back. And hopefully people can go online, fatimascampaign.com, and give generously to help make a difference to these young people's lives. Because, as I say, children are the future.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Arlene Foster on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the final section of Headliners. Paul, starting with The Guardian. And have I read this right? Someone is suggesting that our heritage is valuable.
Yeah, not just someone. The Guardian. Let's get into this. Invest in heritage to boost wealth of failing English towns, says new report. There's absolutely no way, by the way, this story would run if there'd been a Tory government. Just absolutely no way. Celebrating an area's cultural past is key to reviving its economy, according to the Historic England. You know, famously, The Guardian, as I said, aren't really into their English culture. And presumably they want people to visit these places and read the warning signs about how in the past everything was racist and then go home and tweet about it. I'm not too sure what... they're absolutely right. We've been crowing. People in general have been crowing that we should be very supportive of our heritage here in England and in Scotland and Wales and Ireland, Northern Ireland and Isle of Wight and all those, Hailing Island and all those other places associated with the UK, Kerry, as you were saying. But what's incredible for me is, of course we should, and we should be proud of our heritage. It's what it is. We should talk openly about it. We shouldn't be afraid of our heritage, and it is what it is. It's like when I was talking about, you know, I'm a big fan of Christianity, and when I was talking about Justin Welby earlier, and I was talking about he needs to take a look in Christianity's past, all I'm doing is putting a mirror up to someone like Justin Welby and saying, look at the sort of stuff you talk about and the message that it creates and the way it resonates out. Because people like The Guardian and people that support The Guardian have for too long now talked down English culture or British culture or whatever culture it might be that's associated with these isles. And it's about time they had a positive story. And like I say, they're doing it here from an economical perspective, and they definitely wouldn't do this if the Tories had still been in power.
Speech.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely. I like the fact he says the report. I'm going to read this paragraph. The report has applied strict mathematical criteria to reveal the true value of any area rich in cultural heritage. It's found that wherever heritage and cultural history are linked to the work of new artistic and scientific communities, greater economic productivity and business growth are the results. What the hell was the strict mathematical criteria? What was it? Heritage plus cultural history times work of new artistic and scientific communities minus business growth equals something. What on earth are they talking about?
You're a genius, Kerry.
Yes.
We're in the Daily Mail next, and the secret to men's happiness involves rubber gloves. Tell us more.
Happiness is doing the dishes, they say, whilst trying to pull one over men yet again. Men would be much jollier if they did the washing. I do the washing up, by the way. I've always washed up, but has it made me happy? No, not once.
It's because you live alone.
I have no choice. When I was married, I still washed up occasionally. As soon as I read these headlines, I'm straight going, here we go.
Yeah, here we go.
This obviously has been put together. Women are being tricky here and trying to convince men to do more washing up. You know what your people are like. And apparently they basically measured how long men spend doing washing up, which is and household chores, which is not as long as they spend working. And then they've assumed there is nothing here that says whether they tested whether they were happier after they did the household chores or after they worked.
That'd be a mathematical.
They haven't done that. The equation they've gone with is doing household chores must make you happy. So if you do more of it, therefore you will be happier.
I agree. There's a lot of missing information here.
Yeah, incredible, yeah.
It might be a case of happy wife, happy life. I think there might be a touch of that old cliché. OK, moving to The Guardian, Paul, who would have thought that in the great decline of print media that this gem of a magazine wouldn't make it?
Yeah, I wasn't aware of it till now, but Spirited Defence, Psychic News magazine battles to ward off closure. It's a journal of British spiritualism, which exposes fake mediums, faces financial crisis after subsidy is withdrawn. Well, I bet they didn't see that coming, Cressida. There we go. I want to stress, he says later on, that the majority of mediums are painfully honest people. Painfully honest.
Yeah, it hurts them.
Oh, I've never been so painfully honest. Painfully honest people who will go to a spiritualist church and demonstrate on a soaking wet Friday night for £15 and don't even get petrol money. But in all walks of life, there are odd rogues and vagabonds. It sounds very much like the open mic circuit comedy to me. This sounds exactly like the way I went about things. Essentially saying that they probably do a good service because there are a lot. I believe in spiritualism, and there are a lot of good spiritualists out there. However, there are a lot of people, because these people are in need in some way, that are going to take advantage. So you do need something like the Psychic News, just to check out whether, dazzling Bob Dazzler, it really is speaking to your nan.
Rubbish. Kerry, 5 seconds on this.
Well, of course, it's also all nonsense, by the way, but, if you want to believe in it, that's fine. They're working with a skeleton staff, which I think is quite amusing. Personally...
The show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Monday's front pages. No, they're not there. The Times, I'm gonna just lean in. Knock down prices for Greenbelt to build on. The Daily Mail has no more rioting in the name of our little girl. The Express has exposed junior doctors' plot to cripple NHS again. The Guardian has far-right use of Christian symbols, an offence to our faith. The Telegraph has Cooper, UK has lost respect for police. And those were our front pages. That's it for tonight's show. Thanks to Paul and Kerry. Leo Kearse will be here tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Stephen Allen and Lewis Schaefer. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, then stay tuned for breakfast. Good night.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we go through Monday, it's going to be turning increasingly hot and humid for some of us, with the risk of thunderstorms in the northwest, but it will be turning fresher later. Looking at the bigger picture, we've got an area of higher pressure across the UK. Further towards the west, a deep area of low pressure, and that's helping drive southeasterly winds. So through the rest of this evening, many places staying largely dry, but as we go through the night, we'll see the risk of thunderstorms developing firstly in the west, but then across Northern Ireland and parts of Scotland later, and we have got some weather warnings in force, so expect frequent lightning, torrential downpours and some gusty winds. And temperatures overnight, well, it's going to be feeling quite uncomfortable, some places not dipping below 20 degrees. Now, as we start Monday morning, we have this band of heavy, thundery, showery rain across western parts of Scotland, moving its way north and eastward, so there could be some difficult driving conditions in this, with frequent lightning as well and some torrential downpours. Northern Ireland turning drier as the day progresses, and across much of England, largely dry but cloudy further toward the west, and already feeling quite warm by 8 a.m. So as the day progresses, that band of rain will continue to push its way north and east, with some thunderstorms even ahead of that as well. So they can't be ruled out completely across the south, but many places should largely miss these. Many places seeing some hot sunshine, especially across the southeast. It's going to be feeling very hot and humid with highs of up to 34 degrees, but fresher further towards the west. As we go through Tuesday, still a warm start in the south and east, but bright elsewhere. Then we have another band of rain moving in from the west, so turning increasingly cloudy with outbreaks of rain for many across western areas, sunshine and showers behind that, and that sets the scene through Wednesday and Thursday, with unsettled weather on the way, but turning fresher as well. Bye-bye.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Celebrate a spectacular summer with your chance to win an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash in our Great British Giveaway. It's the biggest prize of the year so far, and it's totally tax-free. What would you spend that on? Luxury holidays, a new car, or just put it away for a rainy day? Whatever you do with £30,000 in tax-free cash, make sure you don't miss out on a chance to make it yours. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive?
Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Very good evening to you. You're with GB News, the time 7 o'clock. Up next, Free Speech Nation. But first, a look at the headlines. Hundreds of people have attended the funeral of Alice da Silva Aguirre, one of the 3 girls killed in an attack in Southport now 2 weeks ago. 2 white horses wearing pink and white feathers carried her coffin in a carriage to the service in St Patrick's Church in the town. During that service, a tribute to the 9-year-old from her parents was read out by her uncle. The 9-year-old died alongside B.B. King and Elsie Stancombe during a mass stabbing at a dance class. Meanwhile, the Justice Minister says the fallout from recent riots across the country is, she says, going to be felt for years. Shabana Mahmood says it will hold back the Labour government's efforts to fix the justice system, which was already facing a massive backlog of court cases and dwindling space in prisons. Well, it comes as today a 15-year-old boy has become the first child to be convicted for his part in violent disorder in Sunderland. Meanwhile, the Education Secretary says children will be taught how to spot extremist content and fake news online in the wake of those protests. Bridget Phillipson said that she's launching a review of the curriculum in both primary and in secondary schools to arm children against what she's called putrid conspiracy theories. It comes as Sir Keir Starmer suggested the government will review social media laws as more sentences for online offences linked to the riots are expected in the coming days.